Hi, I'm Manazai, and you are listening to Actual Speak Network. Today, we are going to do a special edition. Today, we are going to present you two sets of clips. The two sets of clips concern the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, that was created by President Donald Trump. The mission of the department, according to President Trump, is to reduce government spending. And at the head of this department is the richest man on the planet, Elon Musk. In the first set of clips that I'm going to present to you, you will see the people that are supporting the actions of DOGE. They will give their reasons why they do so. They will explain how they think having the DOGE is very good for the United States of America. In the second set of clips that I'm going to present to you, you are going to see people that are opposing the actions or the methods of DOGE. They will also give their take and their opinion and explain why DOGE should be dissolved. Let's watch these clips together and see you shortly. Play the clips.
Well, he's got access only to letting people go that he thinks are no good if we agree with him, and it's only if we agree with him. He's a very talented guy from the standpoint of management and costs, and we put him in charge of seeing what he can do with certain groups and certain numbers. Some of the numbers are horrible, what he's found. Think of it, $100 million on condoms to Hamas. Condoms to Hamas. Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval, and we'll give him the approval where appropriate. Where not appropriate, we won't.
Look, the Democrats say that Elon Musk and DOGE are overstepping their bounds. You're right. What Elon Musk and DOGE has been able to uncover is unbelievable. Half of us did not even realize.
And stop there.
It's
because look, stop there. You just said what he's done is unbelievable. Now, you could then add some, but what about he's found hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fake contracts, and I read them, just a tiny portion of them, the other night. Transgender surgery on mice, the money they're spending on all of this stuff, the whole thing's a scam. And you'll find ultimately that the money that they sent comes back to a lot of the people that made those deals, okay? You're going to find that. What he's also done is made people realize how many people should be cut. Because normally you go in and you say, all right, cut 4% of your workforce. He said cut 50%, 60%, 70%. That's a big thing. No, he's done a great job.
We'll be ending the flagrant waste of taxpayer dollars. And to that end, I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight. Thank you, Elon. He's working very hard. He didn't need this. He didn't need this. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Everybody here, even this side, appreciates it, I believe. They just don't want to admit that. Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender. This is real. $32 million for a left-wing propaganda operation in Moldova. $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. $20 million for the Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. It's a program. $20 million for a program. $1.9 billion to recently created Decarbonization of Homes Committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her? A $3.5 million consulting contract for lavish fish monitoring. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $59 million for illegal alien hotel rooms in New York City. He's a real estate developer. He's done very well. $250,000 to increase vegan local climate action innovation in Zambia. $42 million for social and behavior change in Uganda. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well with learning. You know what we're doing. We should use it ourselves. And $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education. The most ever paid, nothing even like it. Under the Trump administration, all of these scams, and they're far worse, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about them. They're so bad. Many more have been found out and exposed and swiftly terminated by a group of very intelligent, mostly young people, headed up by Elon, and we appreciate it. We found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud.
Elon Musk have a point.
Look, USAID is a mess. Anyone who's worked there would know that, would say that, would agree.
So why won't Democrats say that? This is how Caroline Leavitt, White House spokesperson, talked about USAID.
These are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either.
So Elon Musk is spearheading the Department of Government Efficiency, and if it means ferreting out waste and fraud on behalf of Americans, then I think he is doing a great job. He is operating at the direction of the president, and what we have seen with USAID is just a blatant disregard for what Americans want to see and how they want their dollars spent around the globe. There are important projects. We acknowledge that, but we have to disrupt this system, ferret out the waste, and get back to what we should be doing, and that's making sure that American interests are represented in supporting our allies and partners.
I think something a lot of people are excited about, DOGE, something you started working on with Elon, several months ago. Give me your assessment of things, because I think so many people, Vivek, are shocked by what they're seeing happen, by the things that are being uncovered.
I mean, sadly, I'm not surprised, but what I am pleasantly surprised by is how united people across the country are against this waste, fraud, and abuse at the level of our government. I thought President Trump did an outstanding job in his joint address, just laying out hard facts of where U.S. taxpayer money has gone. This first step of at least letting sunlight be a disinfectant, of actually getting that bureaucracy out of the way, that's a requirement to revive our economy, to fight our national debt. And I would even say to revive our core American spirit, which is not a bureaucratic one at its core.
Speaking of opportunity, Elon Musk and the DOGE team are looking at how much money the federal government spends, and he posted this on X. The DOGE team discovered, among other things, that the payment approval officers at Treasury were instructed always to approve payments, even to known fraudulent or terrorist groups. They literally never denied a payment in their entire careers, not even once. What do you make of Elon Musk going through Washington right now with a Hoover?
I'm okay with it. And I think the American people are okay with it. Everybody knows the dirty little secret about government. It drips with fat. No one's ever done an exercise like this. I thought he'd get a lot more pushback from Congress, and he's not. He's going in there with a spatula, and he's scraping out billions of dollars, and people are okay with it. After all, it's taxpayers' money. Right. Why not do this? If you sit around your kitchen table, you got to have a budget every year. Right. Why can't we apply the same kind of philosophy to government? And that's why he's getting a lot of latitude and a lot of slack, even though he's a controversial guy. But look at the executional skills he has. Sure. There's nobody like him. Let him do his thing.
It's very encouraging of the things that he's disclosing and where he's headed with this, because they haven't even really cracked the nut. I mean, you've got education in the Pentagon that are out there, and you know what time this thing started?
Was there any sort of conversation or pushback, from folks who are getting questions at home?
They're going to push back because you've got congressmen on both sides of the aisle that, if they follow that paper trail, it's going to come back to them. You got their wife and or girlfriend that works for some agency, quasi-agency, or some business, and I'll probably get primary for saying that, but that's the truth, and we all know it.
I am now directing each member of the department's civilian workforce, just civilian, to provide those 5 bullets on what they accomplished in their specific jobs last week, to reply to that email and CC their immediate supervisors. It's a simple task. Really, as Elon said, as the president recognized in our first cabinet meeting, just a pulse check.
So there you just listen to the people who are in support of DOGE's actions. But the next clip I'm going to present are the people who are against DOGE actions. Let's watch these clips, and then I will see you after that. Play the clips.
Elon Musk may get to be dictator of Tesla, but he doesn't get to shut down the Agency for International Development.
No one elected Elon Musk to dismantle it. He doesn't have the power to destroy it.
Privileged billionaires who don't give a damn about America and Americans should not be making decisions that put Americans at harm.
There are numerous errors. So the I unit here at CBS and the Confirm team actually dug into this. And we found that, for example, some contracts were counted multiple times, or they were citing incorrect figures. So we know that within that there are numerous errors. So there's no evidence so far that we have seen that they have actually identified hundreds of thousands of dollars or billions of dollars worth of fraud. When the White House was asked about this, the Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that, they believe that all of these are waste and abuse and fraud, that arguably any of these contracts are a waste of American taxpayer dollars, but none of them actually called out fraud specifically.
When you see Elon Musk, who contributed over $200 million, $270, to get Trump elected, and then becomes, in many ways, the most important appointee of the Trump administration. And when you see, since Trump's inauguration, Elon Musk becoming $150 billion richer in 2.5 weeks, $150 billion richer, you tell me whether or not we are living in an oligarchy. And I think the function of government under Trump, under Elon Musk, will not be to serve ordinary people, but to make the very richest people in this country even richer. What is wrong right now is one simple reality. What Musk is doing is illegal and unconstitutional. You cannot go into an agency like USAID and essentially fire everybody and get rid of that agency. You cannot do that's an agency that was created by Congress. They want to get rid of USAID? Fine. Come to the Congress, make your case. You can't do it unilaterally. You cannot withhold U.S. funds that were appropriated for Medicaid, for community health centers, for Head Start. You cannot put a freeze on that. That money was appropriated by the Congress. And as I hope every fourth grader in America knows, Congress holds the purse strings.
We looked at it differently. So everybody keeps talking about, I think, like 2.4 million federal workers. Those are FTEs, full-time equivalents. But when you look at grant recipients, contractors, huge number, Postal Service, which they've also talked about having some reductions, right? You're getting close to 9 million people. Right. It's a lot of people. And we looked at the way it's spread around the country. So it's 9 million people, and it's not all in Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia. It's scattered everywhere.
80% of that federal workforce outside of the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. Yes, there's a concentration here for sure.
Absolutely.
That 20% ratio is higher than any other state, but that dispersal touches every state in the union.
Absolutely, and even when you look at the map and you look at how it's spread out, some parts of states more than others. So, like you have a big federal agency with a satellite office in your town or your county, that can be a big chunk of employment, especially in some of these rural communities where there aren't a lot of private sector jobs. There just aren't. The state, federal, state workforce, local workforce, and federal workforce, big employers. And you go to some of these communities, you whack out 20 jobs. Those are jobs that it's not easy for people to find work.
Nobody wants fraud, nobody wants waste, but talk us through what you're finding here.
Well, what we're looking at is what DOGE calls the wall of receipts. It's where they put up a list of the contracts they say they've canceled and how much they've saved for taxpayers by canceling them. But the problem is that so many, especially of the largest savings they talked about, were just wrong. On their first list, the top 5 items were all wrong, later deleted. Then they put up another list of those 5 out of the top 7 were all wrong, later deleted. Now the number 1 largest savings on their list, even now after weeks to make it better, the number 1 savings on their list, wrong also. It's a contract they say they canceled, but really was canceled last year under President Biden. So it raises questions, about whether they really understand the government that they're now basically in charge of.
Well, I got some breaking news for you tonight about Elon Musk, and you guessed it, DOGE. Pay attention to this. The Trump administration has now agreed to temporarily restrict the Department of Government Efficiencies, that's DOGE's, access to the Treasury Department payment systems. Isn't this amazing? They've had it for the last few days. There's been outrage. Well, this agreement came in response to a suit accusing the Treasury Department of committing an unlawful action by giving private information to DOGE. Meanwhile, earlier today, it was revealed that the DOGE is also targeting federal health agencies. The Washington Post reports that the DOGE team has visited the Centers for Disease Control and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. They also have sought access to payment and contracting systems across the Department of Health and Human Services. My next guest has new reporting from Wired on what exactly they're up to at Treasury. Brian Barrett is executive editor of News for Wired. Brian, you and the Wired team have been working around the clock for the last 2 weeks. Give us the latest. I mean, since last Friday, when we saw the second in command at Treasury resign after decades and decades working there, really over a dust-up, over giving the DOGE team access to the payment system. Now suddenly, Trump's limiting it? What's going on?
Well, I think what you're seeing is finally a response to reporting from us and other outlets that are showing the extent of the access this DOGE team is gaining and who's gaining it. At Treasury in particular, we reported just the other day, there was a 25-year-old with no government experience who had the ability to actually alter the code of the federal payment system that's responsible for $5.4 trillion of disbursements every year. These are not elected officials. Elon Musk, obviously not an elected official. And the idea that they can just kind of run ramshot over any department they want, get any access they want, seems absurd on its face. And I'm glad that some of the legal mechanisms are kicking in to try to limit that access.
Can you go back to this alter the code point? because for the last few days, the pushback we've been getting from the administration is that the DOGE team only has read-only access. They can't actually impact anything. And if their job, in theory, is to assess where there could be, fraud and waste and places to be more efficient, then they certainly need read-only access. But when you talk about altering code, that doesn't sound like read to me.
Well, our reporting showed that this one employee did have administrative privileges to these systems. That means that you definitionally have an opportunity to alter the systems that you want. We don't know what he did with it, if anything. But the fact that it was even on the table is concerning. One of many concerning things that this administration is doing. I think you look at the idea of putting AI agents into the U.S. government, this sort of tech-forward posturing for all of these systems that are sensitive. They run on very old code. They require a lot of care and maintenance. The idea that you can go in and rip it up and start over again from scratch might be how you run a software startup. It's not how you run the U.S. government.
If you don't know how to respond to a lie, as Chris has said, that's the biggest audience any politician's going to get. So Americans, what are they to think? Okay, well, I guess 160-year-olds are getting I'm sorry. I know it. Well, no, I don't. It's not harder than it looks because I've been in Congress. I can tell you, it's not harder than it looks. Where are the Democrats when he starts saying this nonsense? Why don't they get one person out there who can communicate extraordinarily well? Make it a meritocracy. Why can't somebody go up there, like Barack Obama would have done, or like Bill Clinton would have done, and just sit there and laugh and go, he says they're on. We used to do this all the time in Congress. Bill Clinton says this. Look, and you hold up a sheet. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. Why can't Democrats do this?
People like me, I didn't understand it. I'm not sure I still fully understand it. But you've done really good reporting. Let's start with this one distinction: read-only access versus administrator privileges or write access. There seems to be some discussion about who had what. I want you to tell us about what that is and whether it matters.
Sure. So read-only access is when you can see something, sometimes if you're on a Google Doc and you're able to see the document, but you can't edit it. That is the regular person experience of read-only access. So you know what's in there, you can see the information, you can't change it. And when you have read-write access, that means you can both read what's in a thing, whether that's a document or, in this case, an entire system, and you can also change it. And so this is a really big deal because it's, already pretty sensitive to be able to see some of the code or to see some of this information. But, if we're going to take the DOGE initiative at its word, that what they're trying to do here is to audit these systems, to try to audit some of the payments, to find government waste, then being able to have some level of read access might be a way to do that. But then when we're actually looking at, well, why would they need read and write access? What is it that they need to change here if really what they're coming in to try and do is identify maybe what they consider to be wasteful spending? And I think the area in which, we can see this most critically is the way that Trump administration and DOGE has approached USAID, where they've taken a federal agency established by Congress and they've sort of said, we're going to get rid of all these people. We're going to turn off funding to the programs, even though Congress has mandated that funding. Congress has set aside the budget for that because that is the role of Congress. And now, of course, USAID is basically being nearly collapsed as an agency. And so I think when we're talking about this read-write access thing, it sounds kind of maybe not like a big deal because it has this sort of technical terminology. But really, when it comes down to it, what you're saying is there's a difference between someone being able to look at the code to audit some of these systems versus someone being in there and possibly being able to change payments, to delay payments, and to shut off the tap entirely. And we don't necessarily know what exactly the changes were made, but Josh Marshall of Talking Points Memo did his own reporting that followed ours that found that there were people who were very, very concerned at Treasury because there were changes being made, and they were really afraid that this new person coming in did not fully understand the systems and could have caused havoc.
Do you think that Elon Musk is staying up night just worrying about excessive spending in the CDC? I don't think so. At the end of the day, what these guys want and what Trump wants is to cut programs that working class people need. They're talking, the House Budget Committee released their report, their budget, $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid. Do you know what that means? It's not only that millions of people, kids, are going to be thrown off the health insurance they have, devastating to nursing homes, 40% of the revenue coming into community health centers. 30 million people get their health care, community health centers. That's coming from Medicaid. You cut Medicaid, you're going to dismember an already broken health care system. What are they going to do with that money? They're going to give it to tax breaks for the richest people in America. Over $1 trillion goes in tax breaks to the top 1%. That is what these guys want. They want more wealth. They want more power. American people are going to have to stop them.
Yeah, I found out on last Thursday. I got a boilerplate email about 3:45 p.m. that kind of followed the OPM directives that said that I'm a probationary employee, so I can be assessed, and that my skills and abilities no longer met the agency's need, which is ridiculous.
Why do you think NOAA was targeted?
I think this is a clear across-the-board attack on science. They don't like necessarily what NOAA does as it relates to climate change, and they don't like necessarily the fact that we help people because of the fact that we just help people. There's no ulterior motives at NOAA when we're trying to help the American public. At no point at NOAA has anyone ever said we're not going to give important information, data, and resources to a community based on who that community voted for. But we do know someone has done that. The president has done that when it's related to wildfires out in California. So I think there's a lot of issues with just the fact that we help others purely because we want to help others and because we're trying to help people deal with increasing extremes as it relates to climate change.
Yeah, what we're talking about is what DOGE calls its wall of receipts. Basically, it's a list of contracts that it's claiming credit for having cut and the savings it says it achieved by cutting them. It's really the only place where they show their work at all. The only time they ever show us how they get to the numbers they claim for the savings. So you can go down this list and you can see the details of these contracts. And you said in two of the cases they were counting as canceled 2 contracts that actually just ended on their own when George W. Bush was president from 2005 and 2006. And each of those contracts, they claimed a $53 million savings now. So that's the kind of error we're finding. It's not rocket science. You could click literally on a link and see that this was 20 years old.
Now, is that, I mean, if you can find that out, how long did it take you to find that out? Is it a simple mistake on their part, or is it deceptive?
This is, I said, the one place where you can see DOGE show its work. And we're looking in there to see, are they competent? Do they know what they're doing? When they're looking at government contracts, which, again, that's the job they're out there to do, is to change the government, to overhaul it, to make it efficient. Do they understand the government itself and how it works? And the errors we're finding them making, I mean, you mentioned some of them, confusing millions with billions. Triple counting the same contract, counting contracts as canceled that had actually been canceled long before. Those aren't like difficult things to spot. And it speaks to sort of a carelessness or just a lack of familiarity with the government that they're now basically in charge of.
With cutting government waste. What does getting that information, access to that information, have to do with the price of eggs in Iowa? Absolutely nothing. The fox is in the hen house at this point, and Donald Trump is asleep at the wheel. He cannot tell us what information is being accessed, who's accessing it, and for what purpose are they using it. If you ask me, this is all, the only explanation at hand is that Donald Trump is bought by Elon Musk, and Elon Musk has carte blanche to do whatever he wants and to sell out Americans' sensitive data. The American people have to wake up to what's happening right now. This is not a test. And here's the other thing that I think is most concerning. This is only what we know, Wolf. It's what we don't know that Elon Musk is doing that is most alarming and should be most alarming to the American people.
There you have it. On Action Speak Network, we give you the information as it is. Our own personal opinions, we keep them for ourselves. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 1,000. I'm out.
Say at the motherland, we represent for the motherland. Glory, you represent the motherland.